Well, hello model car fans. Welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. This is Raul, and this week I'm going to feature a build here of a 1970 Pontiac Grand Prix. And this isn't your normal version of the 1970 Pontiac Grand Prix. This is the Hurst SSJ model. Very rare car, which even just a 70 Pontiac Grand Prix is a pretty rare car. As I really like these Grand Prix, I think the styling on them is just really nice with the 4 headlights. So I do have just a thing for these, even though you really just don't see them. And when Pontiac came out with this body style in '69, it was the only thing on the G-body platform, and it did okay. 10,000 units is what they sold in 1969. And in '69 it was available with the 400 or the 428 cubic inch engines from Pontiac. And the 4-speed was available, and I had mentioned that in my other video, but very, very rare, as 600 and something 4-speed cars for '69. But Pontiac didn't keep very good records, apparently, of this car, because for '70 it's even harder to research these. But for '70, there was a bit more competition going on, because in '70 the Monte Carlo came out, and that was available as an SS454 model also. It competed directly against this car, and they shared a lot of the same mechanical components as far as chassis and a lot of the drivetrain components, but different engines. The 454 was available in the Monte Carlo, and in the Grand Prix, the 455 was available for 1970. So the 428 went away, and you can get a 370 horsepower version of that in the SJ. And then they had the regular Grand Prix J model. On paper, the 4-speed was also available in the 70 Grand Prix. But with only about 5,000 made, the 70 Grand Prix are very rare. What I didn't know is when I bought this model kit and I was researching just 70 Grand Prix, is that was the first year for the Hurst Grand Prix SSJ, which very little information is out on these cars, and very little of them exist, and don't really know how many of them were actually made, because there's a lot of confusion there. And just keeping track of what Hurst Performance was up to, or Hurst at the time, because they were pretty heavily involved in a lot of vehicles and a lot of things that were going on. They had their Hurst Hemi under glass cars that they were doing in '64, '65, '66, and I believe '67. And then they really started to get heavy with the factories. I mean, they had a deep relationship with Pontiac, supplying the Hurst 4-speed shifter for all the Pontiacs, and they were well known for that. So, long-standing relationship with Pontiac, but they were involved in, Chrysler had hired them to do the Hemi conversions on the '68 Hemi Dart and Hemi Barracudas. So Hurst did those cars and prepped those cars, which they were supposed to do 50 of each, but they ended up doing, I believe it was 70 Darts and 80 Barracudas. So they had done quite a bit there. And they had also, in '69, they were helping AMC. They prepped all of the 53 '69 AMX Superstock cars, the race cars. And they also were helping with the '69 SC Ramblers, I understand. Trying to get a full history of what Hurst was involved in is pretty difficult, because I haven't really seen any books or articles, just trying to piece all of this together. And of course, they're well known for the Hurst Oldsmobiles of '68. That was the first one, the silver and black one. Those cars to me are pretty cool, but they had a deep relationship with Oldsmobile too, as far as offering the very first Hurst branded actual vehicles. So that was the 455 powered Hurst Olds for '68 and '69, which those were significant powerhouses. You couldn't get a 455 in Olds 442 in '68 or '69. But for '70, they got that pulled from them. There was no '70 Hurst Olds, but Oldsmobile kept that in-house, and the result of Oldsmobile trying to do their own is the Rally 350, if you know that story. So it went from there, and then there was no 71 Hurst, but there was a 72 Hurst. But interestingly, I knew in 1970 Hurst was involved with Chrysler, and they did the Chrysler 300C, which is to me very interesting. Is there really isn't anything Hurst about it. It's a Chrysler 300C with some very specific options, white with the gold interior, and every single one of them had the TNT 440, and they were all automatics. And it's the only one that I know of that no Hurst shifter was available in it. It had all the Chrysler drivetrain, didn't even offer the shifter. They had the console with the automatic shifter in it right from Chrysler. They had a special hood and a special deck lid and a special paint job. But as far as anything mechanically done to it, Hurst didn't do anything. They just added some looks and some colors to it. I like the car, me being a Mopar guy and into C bodies. I knew about that car and the specifics on it. So when I was researching 1970 Grand Prix, and I stumbled upon this one, and I didn't know about it. Like, here's a Hurst that I hadn't even heard about. And I stumbled into some of the 71s and 72s, which there's more information on those. But for 1970, Pontiac and Hurst got into a deal where Pontiac delivered a whole bunch of them to Hurst, and the records are very unclear because Pontiac didn't keep really good track of them, and it seemed like they really didn't care, and Hurst didn't advertise them. Hurst seemed to think that Pontiac was going to advertise them, and Pontiac seemed to think that Hurst was going to advertise them. So there's very little information, but most of them are white. They did make some black ones. There's rumors that supposedly there was at least one green 70. More of it colors were available, but just about all of them are white, and there's a few black ones. But the signature thing is the sunroof. They all had sunroofs, and they all had the 3/4 vinyl top, or the quarter vinyl top in the back. So that's a signature thing for a Hurst SSJ for 1970. So it has a sunroof, and it has the vinyl top. It could have been built on the SJ or the regular J model. Supposedly the 455 was available with a 4-speed, but none are known to have been built. On paper they were available, but when it came to the Grand Prix, almost all of them are automatics. You look at 69 and they're virtually all automatics. 1970, don't know if any 455 4-speeds were actually made. Can't really find any records on the car. But when it came to building it, pretty easy to build. As far as the hard part is getting the kit. And most of them didn't even have the Hurst wheels. I had to add them. I wanted them on there to give it that look. So I bought those from Model Haas. This is an older build. And then I changed out the tires to AMT tires with the white letter Goodyears just to dress it up. And but the gold on the hood and the gold up here and the vinyl top, those are unique to Hurst. And faking these cars is very easy to do. They had a special Hurst badge, SSJ, that has been reissued, but there's very little paperwork, nothing in the VIN, nothing that really tells you what you have, other than if you find a factory sunroof car and do the vinyl top. But there is some delivery paperwork, so if you get some of the paperwork, it will show that it was delivered to Hurst as the first dealer. So it will show that, but that's paperwork is king when it comes to these. But this started out as a MPC 70 Grand Prix, and it actually was a mint kit that I had scored, and it was kind of hard to actually open it and build it, but I'm like, I buy my kits to build. And once I had seen that one, I'm like, I need to do this way. Oh, and one interesting thing when it came to Hurst, I was talking about the shifters. On paper, it says that the Hurst shifter, which is just like the console shifter you would see in the 69 Hurst Olds, was available in this car. So this one you could get an actual Hurst shifter with an automatic, but that's only on bench seat cars with no console. With Grand Prix, the bench seat is super rare. From what I understand, the SJs came with buckets and a console, but a regular J model does not. It would have to start, and in the Hurst options, they could have started with either one, an SJ or just a J. but they came out with SSJ badges on all of them, whether or not it actually had the 455 or the 400. So it's really confusing on what is accurate and what's not. But when it came to building it, the only thing I really had to do was this came with a complete vinyl top. So I sanded, I added the bar here and continued the molding and sanded all of that completely off, all of the vinyl. So, and then I cut the hole for the sunroof, and I really didn't do anything else to it. See if it gets the light in there. But, you know, the console and the interior, I left that all alone, and just cut the hole in it to give me the sunroof, and then cleaned it all up and painted it. And it didn't have any decals, so I actually took that from one of the other Pontiac models, and I think it was either a Keith Marks decal or it was right from the 68 Firebird. And I just masked it off and painted the gold, and I painted the black, and she came out beautiful, and changed out the wheels. But the rest of the kit is pretty much as MPC delivers it. So there's the 455 or 400, you really can't tell in the kit, and the signature MPC where the transmission is a manual tranny and it's way out there. And if you look, it's got an automatic brake pedal in there and an automatic shifter, which MPC does a lot, so I get a kick out of that. Then the dated 1970 bumper, front and rear, or just the rear really. So there is some specifics to the body. The grills are a little bit different here, and then the moldings, Grand Prix here and this here, those are 70 items, and the emblem down here, they're moved around for 69 and 70, but the rest of it's pretty much the same. And then here's a nice shot of the hood, but when the light hits the gold, it darkens my lens. So I keep fighting with lighting on this camera, but everything I do to brighten it up makes it harder to see, and then I get my hand in the wrong spot and it dims it down. So don't really know how to control that with this particular camera, and haven't really upgraded to a camera. But and then I show you the underside here, because there we go. You know, screws there, screw bottom chassis and everything. But really enjoyed building this, and it was a fun car once I saw pictures of it, and I'm like, I have to duplicate that and do one of these. And I haven't done a 72, but I do have another 72 kit. I built 69 through 72 Grand Prix, so I've already featured the 69 and I believe the 71 or the 72. One of those two I featured, but here's the 70, and I got another one of those 71 or 2s that are done. But I do have one more 72 kit to build, and I do plan to make Hurst SSJ 72, which on those the trunk has gold on it because it has the much more peaked trunk, and I think that looks pretty sweet. But I don't have another set of these Hurst wheels to add to it, but most of them didn't come with the Hurst wheels. Hurst would change out the wheels and paint them gold, but I've seen some with some daisies, and I've seen the Hurst wheels on it. But on this one I had to do it. And another note, this mirror, that's actually from one of the Revell 69 Camaros. Just took that from one of the kit, because it's a nice mirror, and MPC does not give you mirrors, outside mirrors. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and all your comments. I really appreciate it. You guys, you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Saturday.